Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And I rise in opposition to the amendment offered by my good friend from Utah, Mr. Stewart. And I want to state again that I've appreciated Mr. Stewart's collaboration on bills that have come through the Science Committee in the past. And I definitely appreciate his intent to strengthen and bring more transparency to the science advisory boards. However, as explained previously, and as I will explain, this bill and this amendment do not what needs to be done. Although my friend's amendment seems to make mostly minor and technical corrections, there are a few changes that raise concern. One consequence of this bill is the expansion of the scope of the Science Advisory Board's work to include risk or hazard assessments proposed by the agency. And unfortunately, the amendment offered exacerbates this burden and potential delay by adding draft work being done by the agency to the board's workload. A letter from several leading environmental groups, including the Natural Resources Defense Council and the Environmental Defense Fund, note that the inclusion of risk and hazard assessments already represents a dramatic and unnecessary expansion. It would increase the burden on the Science Advisory Board and slow the board's ability to complete its tasked objectives. Asking the board to constantly peer over the shoulder of the agency at this stage is an inefficient and ineffective use of the board. I'm also concerned about another part of the amendment that requires the board to be fully and timely responsive to Congress. This seems inconsistent with language in the underlying bill that requires the board to avoid making policy determinations or recommendations. The amendment appears to put the board in a precarious position, making it vulnerable to political interference and placing a shadow over the independence that we all agree the board should have. The Science Advisory Board can provide Congress and the EPA with important scientific advice, but it should not be beholden to Congress or to the EPA administrator. Finally, it's clear that this bill would have a serious impact on the membership of the Science Advisory Board in a way that will prohibit qualified scientists from providing their advice to the EPA. Unfortunately, this amendment only deepens that impact by increasing the number of prohibited activities. If this amendment is adopted, the bill would read, board members may not participate in advisory activities that directly or indirectly involve review or evaluation of their work. I want to clearly illustrate what that means. If the EPA were to consider a rule involving gravity, for example, if Albert Einstein were alive, this bill would prohibit him from offering expert advice, as that is a subject with which he has had direct involvement. That's obviously an absurd result that would result in fewer qualified people serving. We should want the smartest and the most knowledgeable scientists advising the EPA. Instead, this bill prohibits them from doing so. Again, I have great respect for my friend from Utah. I'm proud that we've worked together in the past and hope we can find areas where we agree going forward, both with the remainder of the 113th and in the 114th Congress. Unfortunately, regardless of what happens with this amendment, I will have to oppose the bill, but look forward to continuing to work on this issue, and I yield back.